While most families were unwrapping gifts, 10 people walked into Christmas and never walked out. No warning, no goodbyes, and for some families, no answers, even decades later. These are 10 people who disappeared on Christmas Day. Each case is different, each ending unknown, and the closer we get to the final one, the darker it becomes. Before we continue, consider subscribing, because missing doesn't mean forgotten. December 25th, 1929. Larry Griffin was 22 years old when he disappeared. He lived in Stradbally, a small rural village in County Waterford, Ireland. He worked as a postman, a trusted position in a close-knit community where people knew one another by name and routine. On Christmas morning in 1929, Larry left home to complete a short mail route. It was not unusual for him to work on holidays. The route was familiar, local, and should have taken less than 2 hours. Larry never returned. When concern began to grow later that day, searches were organized quickly. The area was rural, with open fields, narrow roads, and nearby woodland. Searchers expected to find something: a dropped bag, a misstep near a ditch, some indication of where Larry had gone. They found nothing. No mailbag, no letters, no footprints, no confirmed sightings. As the days passed, the absence of evidence became the most troubling detail. Larry had no known reason to disappear voluntarily. He left behind personal belongings and had made no plans to travel. There were no reports of illness, financial trouble, or personal conflict that would explain his sudden disappearance. What made the case unusual, and later controversial, was Larry's recent contact with authorities. In the years following the Irish War of Independence, Ireland was still politically tense. Larry had reportedly been questioned by Gardaí in the days leading up to Christmas. The nature of the questioning was never fully disclosed, but it was believed to involve political activity or information he may have overheard. Officially, Gardaí denied any involvement in his disappearance. Unofficially, rumors spread quickly. Some locals believed Larry had seen or heard something he wasn't supposed to. Others believed he had been taken in for questioning and never released. These claims were never proven, but they persisted for decades. Search efforts eventually slowed. No body was found. No suspects were named. No official conclusion was reached. Larry Griffin simply vanished, leaving behind a community that would argue about his fate for nearly a century. Years later, allegations emerged suggesting that a confidential Garda report referenced Larry being questioned the night before he disappeared, a detail never acknowledged in official records. Fayetteville, West Virginia, USA, December 24th to 25th, 1945. The Sodder family went to bed on Christmas Eve, expecting a quiet holiday. George and Jenny Sodder lived with their 10 children in Fayetteville, West Virginia. Their home was modest but lively, especially during the holidays. In the early hours of December 25th, 1945, the house caught fire. By the time the flames were extinguished, the structure had been completely destroyed. 5 of the Sodder children were missing. Authorities quickly concluded that the children had died in the fire, but almost immediately the parents raised serious concerns. No remains were found, not partial remains, not bone fragments, nothing. Fire experts later stated that the fire was unlikely to have burned hot enough to completely cremate 5 bodies. Yet officials maintained their position, listing the children as deceased. The Sodders refused to accept it. Witnesses began coming forward. One neighbor claimed to have seen a car parked near the house on the night of the fire. Another reported seeing people near the property who didn't belong there. A woman later claimed she saw children resembling the Sodder kids at a diner in another state days after the fire. The family conducted their own investigation. They placed a large billboard along a highway showing the children's faces, offering a reward for information. Tips poured in from across the country, none conclusively verified. Years later, the family received a photograph in the mail. It showed a man in his 20s. The family believed the man resembled their missing son, Louis Sodder. On the back of the photo was a handwritten note. The origin of the photograph was never confirmed. Despite renewed attention, no official reopening of the case produced definitive answers. The Sodder children were never located. The fire was ruled accidental. The case was closed, but the family never stopped searching. The handwritten message on the photograph has never been fully explained, and no one ever came forward to say who sent it. December 25th, 2019. Parris Lechelle Hopson was 26 years old when she disappeared on Christmas Day. She had traveled to Massillon, Ohio, to spend the holiday with her grandparents. By all outward appearances, it was a normal family gathering, food prepared, relatives visiting, and the routine rhythm of Christmas unfolding indoors. But those closest to Parris noticed something was wrong. Family members later said she appeared anxious throughout the day. She paced. She seemed distracted. At times, she withdrew from conversation. Nothing specific was said that alarmed anyone enough to call for help, but in hindsight, the behavior stood out. At some point in the evening, Parris stepped outside. She did not take her phone. She did not take her purse. She did not take her car. She was not dressed for the cold. When she didn't return, family members assumed she had gone for a short walk to clear her head. Minutes turned into hours. Eventually, concern replaced assumption. Police were contacted later that night. By then, snow had begun to fall. Search teams responded quickly, canvassing the area around the home and nearby neighborhoods. Dogs were deployed. Officers searched nearby wooded areas and bodies of water. Roads and sidewalks were checked for signs of disturbance or footprints. Nothing was found. No trail, no belongings, no confirmed sightings. Parris's disappearance immediately raised questions because of what she left behind. Investigators noted that people rarely leave voluntarily without essentials, especially on a cold Christmas night. Her phone activity stopped entirely. Her bank accounts were untouched. There was no evidence she arranged to meet anyone. As days passed, attention turned inward, to the house. Police conducted interviews with family members and others who had been present that day. Statements were taken. Timelines were established. No immediate inconsistencies were publicly identified, and no arrests were made. The case remained classified as a missing person investigation. In the months that followed, searches expanded. Flyers were distributed. Her image circulated widely online. Tips came in, but none led to a confirmed location or explanation. What made the case particularly difficult was the lack of evidence pointing in any direction. There was no indication of a struggle, no signs of forced entry, no vehicle movements captured on nearby cameras that conclusively explained where Parris went. Years later, Parris remains missing. Her family continues to advocate for renewed attention, emphasizing that she would not have willingly disappeared without contacting someone she trusted. Investigators later confirmed they were reviewing and reevaluating statements from inside the house, a sign the case was not as straightforward as it first appeared. December 25th, 2000. Kenneth Ray Weaver, known to friends and family as Kenny, disappeared on Christmas Day in 2000. That afternoon, Kenny was riding in a vehicle with another individual. According to statements given to police, Kenny asked to be dropped off near a friend's house in Pocola, Oklahoma. The driver complied. They later told investigators they watched Kenny walk toward the residence after being dropped off. Nothing about the exchange appeared unusual at the time. But Kenny never knocked on the door. No one inside the house reported seeing him arrive. No one reported seeing him leave. When Kenny failed to make contact later that day, concern began to grow. By the following days, he was reported missing. Search efforts focused on the immediate area. Roads were checked. Neighbors were questioned. Flyers were distributed. As time passed, tips began to emerge. One tip suggested Kenny had been seen miles away from where he was dropped off, near a bridge. According to the report, he appeared to be arguing with someone. The identity of the other person was never publicly confirmed. Despite the tip, no physical evidence was found at the bridge. No belongings, no signs of a struggle, no witnesses who could definitively place him there. Importantly, no full water search was conducted in the early stages of the investigation, a decision that would later be questioned. As years passed, the case went cold. Kenny's body was never recovered. No suspects were charged. No official explanation was offered. Family members continued to push for answers, frustrated by what they viewed as missed opportunities early in the investigation. Over time, the case gained renewed attention through media coverage and advocacy. New witnesses came forward, but often years after the disappearance, when memories had faded and corroboration was difficult. One individual reportedly claimed to know what happened to Kenny. According to family members, this person refused to speak publicly or provide a formal statement to authorities. Without physical evidence, the case stalled again. More than 2 decades later, Kenny Weaver remains missing. Despite multiple tips placing Kenny near water, authorities have never confirmed a comprehensive search of the area where he was last reportedly seen. December 25, 2015. Beau Brennan Belson was 5 years old. He lived with his family in Clinton Township, Michigan, and had autism. According to family members, Beau was known to wander, a behavior common among children on the autism spectrum, which is why precautions were usually taken to keep him safe. On Christmas Day in 2015, those precautions failed. At some point during the afternoon, Beau left his home unnoticed. When family members realized he was gone, they immediately began searching the surrounding area and contacted authorities. Police responded quickly. Within a short time, the search expanded into a large, coordinated effort involving local law enforcement, fire departments, search and rescue teams, and hundreds of volunteers. Search dogs were deployed. Neighborhoods were canvassed. Nearby wooded areas, drainage systems, and open land were examined. The weather was cold. As hours passed, concern grew that Beau may have wandered farther than expected. Authorities focused their search on nearby bodies of water, including retention ponds and drainage areas, due to the known risk for children who wander. After several hours, Beau was found in a pond not far from his home. He was pronounced dead. An autopsy later determined the cause of death to be accidental drowning. Authorities stated there was no evidence of foul play. Despite the ruling, questions followed. Many volunteers and community members questioned how Beau traveled the distance he did without being found sooner, given the scale of the search effort. Others questioned why certain areas appeared to have been cleared earlier in the search, only for Beau to be found later. Law enforcement maintained that search protocols were followed appropriately and that tragic outcomes can still occur even during large-scale operations. For Beau's family, Christmas Day became defined by loss. The case was officially closed, but it left behind ongoing discussion about child safety, wandering behavior, and search and rescue limitations, particularly when time and weather work against responders. In the months following Beau's death, at least one volunteer publicly stated that some areas had been cleared earlier than expected, raising questions that authorities said had already been addressed. December 25, 2019. Melissa Bodden was a mother living in Florida when she disappeared on Christmas Day in 2019. She was reported missing by family members after they were unable to contact her during the holiday. According to those close to her, Melissa's lack of communication was unusual enough to cause immediate concern. Law enforcement opened a missing persons investigation. Not long after, Melissa's vehicle was located abandoned. The condition of the car did not immediately indicate an accident, and there were no clear signs of a struggle at the scene. Melissa was not found with the vehicle. Her phone activity had stopped. Her bank accounts showed no movement. There was no confirmed evidence of travel arrangements. Family members told investigators that Melissa had expressed fear in the days leading up to her disappearance. According to relatives, she believed someone was threatening or following her, though she did not identify a specific person publicly. Police investigated these claims. Interviews were conducted with individuals in Melissa's life, and authorities attempted to reconstruct her movements in the hours leading up to Christmas Day. Surveillance footage was reviewed where available, though no publicly released footage has definitively shown what happened to her. As weeks passed, the case gained local media attention. Search efforts continued intermittently, flyers were distributed, tips came in, but none led to a confirmed sighting or discovery. One detail confirmed by investigators stood out. Melissa had made a phone call shortly before she disappeared. The call's existence was acknowledged, but the recipient and content were not publicly disclosed. Years later, the case remains open. No remains have been found. No suspects have been publicly named. No charges have been filed. Melissa's family continues to advocate for answers, emphasizing that she would not have voluntarily left her children without contact. Christmas remains the last known point of normalcy in her timeline. Despite confirming a final phone call, authorities have never publicly stated who Melissa contacted or whether that call changed the direction of the investigation. December 25, 2022. Rory Angelata was an experienced skier. On Christmas Day in 2022, he went skiing in the Lake Tahoe area of California, a region known for its challenging terrain and rapidly changing weather conditions. Rory was familiar with mountain environments and had skied before, which initially lowered concern when he failed to return on schedule. That concern changed quickly. When Rory did not come back by the expected time, authorities were notified. Ski patrols and search and rescue teams began efforts to locate him, focusing on the areas he was believed to have been skiing. Weather conditions deteriorated, snowfall intensified, and visibility dropped. These conditions made searching difficult and increased the risk of exposure for anyone stranded on the mountain. During search operations, teams located Rory's equipment. His skis and helmet were found separated from one another, a detail that suggested he may have fallen or removed gear intentionally, though investigators did not speculate publicly. What was missing was Rory himself. Search crews expanded their efforts, using ground teams, dogs, and aerial searches when weather permitted. Despite these efforts, Rory was not found. Authorities eventually stated that they believed Rory likely died due to exposure, given the weather conditions and the time that had passed. However, his body was never recovered, and no definitive cause or location was confirmed. Rory's family questioned the conclusion. They pointed to reports of a possible sighting after the storm had intensified, a claim that, if accurate, would have placed Rory alive later than investigators initially believed. Authorities acknowledged receiving information but did not confirm the sighting publicly. As time passed, active searches were scaled back due to safety concerns and environmental limitations. Rory remains officially missing. No recovery has occurred. No confirmed timeline beyond Christmas Day has been established. The mountain has kept its answers. Despite official statements suggesting exposure, a reported post-storm sighting remains unresolved and unverified, leaving uncertainty about Rory's final hours. December 25, 1958. The Martin family disappeared on Christmas Day in 1958. Ken Martin, his wife Barbara, and their 3 daughters left their home in Portland, Oregon, intending to collect Christmas greenery from nearby areas, a common holiday activity at the time. They never returned. When the family failed to come home, concern quickly turned into alarm. Searches were initiated across areas where they were believed to have traveled. Roadways, wooded areas, and waterways were examined. No trace of the family was found. For years, the case remained unsolved. Then, in 1961, their station wagon was discovered submerged in the Columbia River. Inside the vehicle were the remains of two of the children. The parents and the third child were not found. Investigators concluded that the vehicle had gone into the river, possibly due to an accident. However, questions remained. Why were only two children recovered? Why were the parents and third child never found? And why were there items inside the vehicle suggesting the possibility of another person being present? Some evidence had deteriorated due to time and water exposure, making definitive conclusions difficult. Additionally, investigators later acknowledged that early handling of the case may not have preserved all potential evidence. Despite renewed attention following the discovery of the car, the remaining family members were never located. The case remains one of Oregon's most enduring mysteries. Investigators later admitted that early evidence handling may have limited what could be confirmed, leaving permanent gaps in the family's final timeline. December 25, 2022. Roderick Augusto was 43 years old when he disappeared on Christmas Day in 2022. He was last known to be traveling from the area near Carlisle, England, toward the far north of Scotland, a journey that would take him into some of the most remote terrain in the United Kingdom. Family and friends became concerned when they could not reach him after Christmas. Authorities launched a missing persons investigation, tracing Roderick's movements through available travel and vehicle data. Eventually, his car was located near Dunnet Head, a rugged and isolated area in Caithness, known for its cliffs, strong winds, and limited access routes. Roderick was not with the vehicle. The area around Dunnet Head is sparsely populated, particularly during winter. Weather conditions can change rapidly, and the landscape presents significant hazards, including steep drops and rocky shoreline. Search teams conducted ground and coastal searches. Local authorities issued public appeals, emphasizing concern for Roderick's safety given the environment and time of year. Despite these efforts, no trace of him was found. Investigators did not publicly confirm whether foul play was suspected. There was no evidence released indicating a struggle near the vehicle, nor were there confirmed sightings of Roderick after his car was discovered. Questions remain. Why did Roderick travel so far north on Christmas Day? Did he intend to stop at Dunnet Head, or did something force him there? And what happened after he exited his vehicle? The case remains open. Roderick has not been found, and no definitive explanation has been established. Despite extensive searches, no personal belongings were recovered near the vehicle, leaving unanswered how and why Roderick left his car in such a remote location. December 25, 2022. Nastel Makonto was 16 years old when he disappeared on Christmas Day. On the morning of December 25, 2022, Nastel was last seen around 9:30 a.m. in the Kraaifontein area of Cape Town. According to police reports, he was wearing yellow shorts and an orange t-shirt when he left his home. When Nastel did not return, his family raised the alarm. The disappearance was reported to the South African Police Service, and local officers immediately issued a public appeal for information. Given the timing, Christmas Day, concern grew quickly, as holiday activity can complicate timelines and delay sightings. Kraaifontein is a populated residential area, meaning Nastel vanished in a place where people were present and daily routines were ongoing. Despite this, no confirmed sightings were reported in the hours following his disappearance. Posters were shared, social media appeals spread rapidly. Community members assisted in searching and sharing information. For several days, Nastel's whereabouts remained unknown. Police did not publicly disclose details about potential leads or reasons for his disappearance, and there were no indications released suggesting criminal activity or an accident. Then on December 30th, 2022, Western Cape Police confirmed an update. Nastel Makonto had been found safe. Authorities announced that he had been reunited with his mother, bringing an end to the search. No further details were released regarding where he had been or the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. a common practice in cases involving minors. Unlike many Christmas Day disappearances that remain unresolved, Nastel's case ended with relief rather than tragedy. For his family, Christmas would still be remembered as a moment of fear, but also as a reminder that not every disappearance ends without answers. Police confirmed Nastel was found safe, but the details of where he went and why he disappeared on Christmas morning were never made public. If you made it this far, thank you. Every name you heard represents a real person and a family still waiting for answers. Consider subscribing so these cases stay visible, because attention is sometimes the only thing that keeps investigations alive. Missing doesn't mean forgotten.